Oui, bien sûr, madame, bien sûr, bien sûr.
Welcome to
Sit down, please.
welcome to our first panel on global orders reshaping. How is the Ukrainian war reshaping the global order? How is redefinition of the international balance among great power reflected in an area caught in its own dynamics of change? How do countries in the wider Mediterranean region position themselves in this evolving environment? These are the main questions our distinguished panelists will address in this 40 minutes panel. We have to be a little bit shorter than we thought because we are a little bit late with the previous session. But let me introduce our distinguished speakers. Let me start from Minister Tajani, Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation, Italy, Minister Lamamra, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Algeria, Mr. Safadi, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jordan, Mrs. Bushamagui, Nobel Prize Laureate 2015, and Ossan Zaki, Assistant Secretary General of the League of Arab States. Thank you for being with us, and excuse me for being a little bit quicker than expected, but as said, we have to catch up with time. And so let me immediately start with our minister, with Minister Tajani, asking you on the three questions, what is the view of Europe and the view of Italy?
Parlo in italiano, che è la mia madrelingua, visto che siamo in Italia.
I will speak in Italian. In my opinion, the difficult time we are living needs a joint response. Together with me, next to me, I see speakers that during this crisis, and thanks to this crisis, we have consolidated relations with them, especially in the energy sector, for example. We Italians achieved independence in terms of gas supply. So we are now independent from Russia, also thanks to an important agreement with Algeria. This morning, also spoke about it with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Mauritania, so the possibility of working on hydrogen, for example. And war is, of course, a negative aspect, which has provoked turmoils in addition to those caused by the coronavirus and those caused by the Lehman Brothers crisis. At the same time, it has an element which has to unify us. We can think about the problems connected to the crisis of wheat. There are African countries like Egypt, which struggled to provide answers in response to their citizens as there was a shortage of wheat from Ukraine. We all committed, and last day and the other day, I signed an economic support to Ukraine to develop a project to send wheat to the countries most in need. This crisis has, in any case, proved that we can have solidarity between different countries, and then we can start ex malo bonum, which means from the bad to good, from the bad we can achieve good. And the war allowed us to strengthen our relations, sometimes existing, sometimes dormant. In my opinion, this can also be useful for the future. We have to strengthen this collaboration. I have always pushed Italy and Europe to care more about Africa and to care more about countries which have shared a long-lasting history in the Mediterranean area, so as to give our citizens effective answers and responses. We have to work through the multilateral organizations, of course, to make sure we can finally reach a peace agreement. Yet peace without justice doesn't exist. And we have to work relentlessly to constantly preserve the independence of Ukraine. I do believe that the presence of many countries working for peace can strongly contribute to give a strong signal. We cannot give up. We know the situation is extremely complicated and difficult. We have listened to the US president, we have listened to the speech by Macron and so many other countries which realize that a war only generates destruction. So cooperation, the rediscovery of new possible partnerships in the future, and hopefully the war will end as soon as possible, but this situation has to lead us to cooperate even more. Italy wants to act as the protagonist in the foreign policy. We want to constantly ensure our role. We want to connect people and allow interlocutors to count on our know-how. Because I believe that this can be the best source, the best tool that Italy can deploy to reinforce and strengthen existing and new partnerships. Of course, war needs to be considered as a tool which allow us to understand the new partnerships can prosper to protect the future. Thank you, Minister. In full compliance with the spirit of MAD, which is the positive agenda regardless of the crisis, regardless of the storm, has underlined a positive aspect which emerged in this difficult situation. So an enhanced cooperation, for example. We feel compelled to admit, and this is to answer a question, that many fora discussed yesterday, a strong message from the South Bank emerged when they say, this is not our war. And we just look at the standard table. I would like to ask you, starting from the Minister Lamara, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Algeria, just a quick comment on how this war, as reminded by the Mr. Tajani, is perceived and considered in the region.
Merci pour votre invitation et je salue l'Institut, son leadership et je voudrais également rendre un hommage bien mérité au président de la République italienne, le président Mattarella, pour son discours d'orientation particulièrement riche et particulièrement source d'inspiration pour nous tous. Je salue également mon homologue, le ministre Tajani, qui a fait une brillante intervention et qui saura, je crois, nous aider dans...
Monsieur le ministre, je m'excuse. Je veux vous dire, mais peut-être vous le savez, mon nom est un nom d'origine arabe, c'est Tijani. La Tijania, c'était très important.
Absolument,
Donc,
absolument.
vous le savez.
La Tijania est née en Algérie et c'est...
Tijania, un prophète the prophet in Black Africa.
Okay. La Tijania est née en Algérie et nous nous réjouissons de vous compter parmi
Dans la
les adeptes de
Méditerranée, il y a eu quelques voyages.
Vous êtes aussi algérien. Ceci dit, je crois que nous avons un destin commun. Nous avons un destin commun en tant que fils et filles de la Méditerranée. Nos nations ont toujours vécu ensemble, les interactions sont multiples. Et je me réjouis qu'aujourd'hui, il y ait un véritable pont de prospérité partagée qui se construit entre l'Algérie et l'Italie. Que cela soit dans le domaine énergétique, l'Italie compte parmi nos clients les plus importants, domaine énergétique et domaine également industriel. Nous avons des avancées considérables et des annonces pour l'avenir immédiat qui sont de nature à promouvoir cette relation et à lui donner une dimension encore plus stratégique. Nous avons naturellement des relations commerciales, nous avons des relations humaines, des relations culturelles, une densité de relations, tant et si bien qu'il y a déjà une quinzaine d'années, les illustres dirigeants de nos deux pays ont décidé de conclure un traité d'amitié, de bon voisinage et de coopération. Le bon voisinage, je le souligne, nous sommes voisins. Par-dessus la Méditerranée, ces eaux aujourd'hui tourmentées et plus que jamais vouées à être des eaux qui rassemblent, des eaux qui puissent propager les mêmes valeurs et les mêmes principes. Cette relation avec l'Italie, donc, se veut un exemple pour l'avenir, à un moment où le monde troublé qui est appelé à donner naissance à une reconfiguration des relations internationales, à un moment où ce monde-là est à la recherche de relations équilibrées entre des pays développés et des pays en voie de développement pour faire en sorte que les espaces de coopération puissent ultimement s'accumuler, se développer, s'articuler pour projeter une relation internationale qualitativement meilleure que les confrontations auxquelles l'héritage de la Deuxième Guerre mondiale a donné lieu pendant toutes ces années-là et dont nous voyons certaines des manifestations en ce moment même dans le paysage lourd de la relation entre l'Est et l'Ouest qui trouble les principes des Nations Unies ainsi que le fonctionnement de l'ordre international. L'Algérie contribue de son mieux à cette évolution qualitative de relations, à l'image de ce que nous réalisons avec l'Italie. Nous le faisons également par rapport aux problématiques qui ont été énoncées par les deux chefs d'État respectés de deux pays voisins et amis de l'Algérie, la Mauritanie et le Niger. Je n'ai pas besoin de revenir sur un certain nombre d'idées qu'ils ont développées. Nous les partageons avec eux dans le cadre du voisinage et dans le cadre des cadres de solidarité, des entités de solidarité et d'identité qui nous réunissent. Je voudrais ajouter, c'est important, il y a à peine un mois, le 1er et 2 novembre, l'Algérie a accueilli le 31e sommet des chefs d'État de la Ligue des États arabes. Un mois, et déjà, il convient de souligner l'esprit qui a présidé à ce sommet et également l'héritage qui en est resté en termes de promotion de la paix, de renouvellement de la paix, de l'appel du monde arabe à la paix, une paix basée sur le principe de 2 États, une paix basée sur les frontières de juin 67, une paix qui s'articule autour de l'initiative arabe de paix que tout un chacun connaît et qui porte véritablement le potentiel d'une paix réelle en tant que contribution à ce vaste espace méditerranéen avec ses prolongements moyen-orientaux, européens et africains que nous appelons de tous nos voeux. Cette paix à laquelle nous travaillons, nous y travaillons également du côté palestinien, puisque les efforts du président Abdelmajid Tebboune ont abouti à la réunion de tous les groupes et formations du vaste spectre politique palestinien à Alger, qui a débouché sur une déclaration d'Alger qui projette l'unification et la relance des processus démocratiques au sein de la partie palestinienne, ce qui constitue un bon placement dans l'avènement de la paix dans la région. Je voudrais, dans le prolongement donc, de ce succès du sommet arabe tenu à Alger, de la réunion des factions palestiniennes à Alger, également mentionner le rôle considérable que joue l'Algérie dans le Sahel. Le président Bazoum a parlé de la problématique de l'expansion démographique avec ces expressions telles que le terrorisme qui menace toute la région et également en termes d'immigration illégale. Sur tous ces terrains-là, je crois que l'Algérie joue un rôle central, un rôle de puissance médiane, médiatrice, un rôle de puissance qui travaille au développement de la région et qui travaille également à faire en sorte qu'il y ait des solutions africaines aux problèmes de l'Afrique, des solutions arabes aux problèmes du monde arabe, et à faire en sorte que cette Méditerranée, qui est un carrefour de civilisation, un carrefour de valeurs partagées, un carrefour de principes, soit véritablement l'un des pôles de la construction ou de la reconstruction du monde de demain, parce que ce monde-là, qui a atteint un certain niveau de développement, d'interconnexion et également ce qui a produit une mondialisation imparfaite et incomplète, mais néanmoins, ce monde-là a indiqué la voie à suivre, c'est celle de plein épanouissement des principes et buts de la Charte des Nations Unies qui demandent à être appliqués partout, y compris en accomplissant, lorsque nous parlons du phénomène de l'annexion de territoires par la force, qui est dans l'actualité, en veillant à ce que ce principe cardinal des Nations Unies s'applique partout à travers le monde, et notamment au Moyen-Orient et en Afrique, dont il est vrai que si on n'arrive pas à appliquer un tel principe cardinal à des situations qui perdurent depuis des dizaines d'années, il se pose alors le problème de la crédibilité de la revendication de ce principe pour les zones du monde où il s'oppose avec acuité, avec notamment accompagné d'un conflit armé particulièrement dévastateur. Donc nous souhaitons que cette Méditerranée qui est notre mer commune avec ses principes, ses idéaux, puisse nous amener ensemble à jouer un rôle dans la réorganisation du monde de demain. Et je vous remercie pour votre aimable attention.
Grazie, molto grazie.
Bravo Tijani.
Il ministro Safadi mi guarda.
Thank you. Minister Safadi is looking at me with a concerned sight because he needs to go and take a flight in 10 minutes. So I will now leave the floor to him.
I just said that you have a flight in 10 minutes, so we have a convergent interest in having you speak now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry I missed what my dear friend Minister Amamre said. He spoke in French, and my French has a lot to be improved, you know. So apologies. But I mean, let me start by thanking you and thanking my dear friend, the Foreign Minister of Italy, for the opportunity to speak to this extremely important, relevant, and timely forum. The challenges that we are facing globally are enormous. Their consequences are falling upon all of us in ways that we did not think we will see at the 21st century. As far as Ukraine is concerned, obviously, like everybody else, we are feeling the impact of the crisis. We're looking at the impact in terms of economic impact, political impact, geopolitical impact as well. We've seen the increase in energy prices. We've seen the commodity crisis, food security issues that are now risen to the forefront as all of us are grappling with questions on how do we solve those issues. And of course, the Ukraine crisis came right at the heels of the COVID-19, which has also exposed the fragility of our international system and the tremendous need for strengthening our cooperation in both regional and global levels so that we can deal with the consequences of crises that has now been proven beyond doubt that whatever happens in one place of the world is going to affect all of us in terms of supply chains, supply security, migration, refugees, all of that. We in Jordan, in the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, we have a principled position vis-a-vis the crisis in Ukraine. We cannot but, and we will not but, continue to urge a peaceful solution to the crisis on the basis of the international law, UN Charter, and the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. And that's a principled position because we live in a region where we have an occupation right next door, and therefore we cannot but speak the same language. The rule-based law is really what glues us together and is the best system we have to maintain at least peace and stability and the opportunity to have a benchmark against which we measure developments in different parts of the world. So ultimately, in Ukraine, in Palestine, everywhere else, people's right to freedom, sovereignty, statehood must be respected. The principle of right to self-determination must be reflected, and the UN Charter must be applied all over if we are to have the security, stability, and prosperity that we all seek across the globe. Obviously, in the region, we also have the issue of, we have our own challenges. We have and I recognize my colleague from Yemen here, we have the Yemen crisis that has been ongoing. We have the Syria crisis and its implications that have been ongoing for years. We have the situation in Libya, and of course, we have the core issue. We have the central issue in the Middle East, which is the Palestinian-Israeli conflict that have yet to be resolved on the basis of international law and of the UN Charter, which would guarantee the right of Palestinians to statehood and sovereignty on their national soil, to live in peace with and security with Israel. So all these are challenges that we're grappling with. The consequences of those challenges are still with us. And therefore, we need to come together, work together, recognizing that our security is interconnected, that our future is interconnected, make sure that we launch meaningful efforts to solve these crises, and also deal with issues that are common to us. I was talking to my dear friend, the Foreign Minister of Italy, yesterday about the issue of refugees and migration. In Jordan, we're the largest per capita host of refugees all over the world. And Europe is obviously concerned with the issue of migration. But what we're saying, if we cannot deal with the issue of migration by building walls, we have to look at the root causes. Why are people migrating? Number one, and try and solve the crises that are pushing people out of their homes. Number two, we need to support refugees in their immediate neighborhood. Because if refugees have dignified lives in our region, they will not make the journey into Europe. Because ultimately, people will do what people have been doing all over, history. People are going to seek better lives for their kids. They're going to seek security. They're going to seek a future. If that future is denied to them in the region, they will start looking elsewhere. So I think we need to look at the issue of migration from a collective perspective. One, we need to focus on solving crises that are pushing people away from their homes. We cannot continue with crisis management approach in many of the issues that we're facing in our part of the world. Two, we have to ensure that we provide the support necessary in cooperation for refugees and for host countries, because refugees cannot be the responsibility of host countries alone. They are a global responsibility. And the cost of sustaining refugees in the region, to be quite honest, is a fragment of sustaining refugees in Europe. And the chances for refugees to go back to their countries in the region are much higher. In Jordan, for instance, 50% of Syrian refugees are under the age of 15, which means the only country they really know is Jordan. But in Jordan, they speak the same language, similar culture. So when the time arises for them to be able to voluntarily go back, they could still go back. But if a child spent 15 years of his or her life in Europe, how much connection does he or she still have with their country? So basically, I'll sum up by saying that the challenges are enormous. We in the region have been dealing with crisis for so long. Ukraine has just come to add to compound those challenges. I think the lesson is we need to work together. We need to maintain cooperation. We need to respect international law, and we need to put together structures that would allow us to deal with the consequences of crisis on the basis of one yardstick and on basis that are collaborative and that enable us to bring the security, stability, prosperity that we all seek, as you very eloquently stated earlier today, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. I will now move to Mrs. Bouchamawi, mentioning something that was stressed in a panel, in a forum yesterday. We had a policy planner forum in which a panelist warned that historically, tense great power competition, like in the Cold War, did not help the advancement of domestic reform agenda in MENA countries. Would you agree? And what would you see the role of civil society being?
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here, even though I'm the only woman here, but I think I represent the civil society. Thank you so much, Excellency, and it's difficult to speak after the politician. And maybe my speech is going to be quite different, but what I listened this morning, your speech and all the opening speeches, I believe that there is a political will to move, to find solution to all our problems. So what we do need, we as civil society, we do need your political will. We need your will to move, to let us sit together, dialogue together, have at least a kind of listening to each other, understanding each other, because we can change the world. We can change our environment. And it is very important for us, because now we are, all of us who are living this crucial time, wars, terrorism, inequality, injustice everywhere. So what we have to do is how we can put all the problems, the main problems on the table, discuss one by one, and go straight practical solution. we do need this practical solution for as civil society. We represent, citizens. We represent the voice of the people there in our countries, and we do need that you listen to us. Second, the role of the civil society is very important. But before, starting with this role, we need to reform our educational system in our countries. We need to have more people that they are aware about their rights, about their duties, and also we have to include women. I think it's very important to have women in all discussion. When we discuss about conflict, we have to involve women. We need to have women around the table because women are more affected than others in any conflict problems. Also, we have to educate our children how they can stay in their countries, how they can help their country, how they can go look forward, look how they can increase their their economy, how they can be more. They look for prosperity, for dignity, how they can do better things to their country. So it's good. We go through education. And also maybe we need also to change a little bit our minds, or this stereotype, not to judge persons about their religion, but we have to judge people about what they are doing for their country, for their local country, localities, for their communities, for others. And I think it's very important. And I really appreciate so much when you involve the civil society in all this political negotiation, dialogues, conference, because you give us a voice, you give us a way how we can participate, how we can give our ideas, and how we can be more, practical, because we have to share everything. And that's why I insist on sharing, on discussing, on listening to each other, on accepting each other, on accepting our differences, but we have to go forward and be more peaceful, because we do need, for us, for the new generation, we do need to have a peaceful world. We need to live together. And also, it's just to conclude, to say, as Tunisian women, I'm so proud to be one of an actor in this national dialogue. It was done by 4 civil organizations in Tunisia without any political background. We did it for our country. We forgot our ego. We forgot our belonging to to our organization. We did it because we to find a solution. We found a peaceful solution for our country by and through the dialogue. And I think it's very important. Dialogue is the key for the peace. Dialogue is the key to live together. Thank you so much.
Minister Safadi has to leave. It's a pity, but the good news is that the women to men ratio with you leaving improves. We moved from 20 to 25%. And we are, of course, ready to invite all the women Minister of Foreign Affairs of the region in the future, but you have to appoint women as Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Yes, you're right.
Now, since we know that another minister has to leave soon, I give the final word to Ossan Zaki, Assistant Secretary General of the Arab League, on a very sensitive question: how is the Ukraine war impacting on the relation between Europe and Arab nations?
Thank you for including us in this panel. First of all, a quick word about the effect of this situation, the war, and before the war. We have witnessed, of course, the COVID situation, and then the war came right after. This has proven to many of us that 2 things were taken for granted. First thing is globalization. The globalization is a phenomenon that would remain with us forever. Actually, we think it has failed to respond to the needs of the COVID situation, and then a war at the scale of the Ukraine war. The second thing is international peace. We realize that international peace has also been taken for granted. And then when a war such as this one, which is, in all honesty, is a regional war, but has a global effect because of the positions taken by NATO, United States, Europe. Of course, it has a global effect, and then this effect has extended not only to the political or security arenas, but unfortunately to the economic arena, to the food security arena, and all of the rest. So we have taken all this for granted. Now, looking from a bird's eye of a regional organization such as the one that I have the honor to represent here, it is easy to say that we are using this situation in order to try to enhance the regional cooperation. Regional in the sense of the member states of our organization. We need to enhance this. We have had various forms of cooperation in the past. We still have, but we need to upscale this. We need to enhance this. And then we have a huge varied areas of cooperation with Europe. You're asking me about the effect that this war has on Europe, Arab states, and I have to tell you that our European colleagues, diplomats and politicians that we talk to all the time, we're not necessarily happy with the positions that Arab states have taken. Why? Because they thought, they were under the impression that there will be wide support to their position, to the European position. Whereas we all understand that Arab states, just like African, Latin, Asian states, everybody has relations with Russia, everybody has relations with Ukraine. We never asked and never wanted to be in a position to pick and choose one over the other. We understand the position that Europe has taken, and we understand the positions that are based on principle and principle of international law, just like Minister Lamamra said. That's why the majority of Arab states voted in favor of a UN resolution in the General Assembly condemning the annexation of territory of Ukraine, because we have a similar situation in the Middle East, in Palestine, and of course, the international law when it comes to Palestine seems to be on leave. So we are very conscious of the European position, but no one can follow this position blindly, because there are interests of states in this situation. We're struggling in order to keep a very delicate balance alive. The Arab League formed a working group to try to work out a solution between the two countries. Algeria, of course, here represented is member, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Jordan. But there seems to us that the will for peace is not yet there, and that maybe the two parties are trying to settle the situation on the ground before heading to any negotiating solution. So we're trying to have a viable dialogue with Europe on this issue. It is not easy to have it because of what I just explained. And of course, the European countries have expected since the beginning that we will follow blindly, which didn't happen. Now I think there is more understanding of where the Arab states situate themselves, even if there is a difference of views. But the dialogue is resuming either bilaterally or even multilaterally, with the hope of reaching a common ground between Europe and Arab countries on how to define the way forward. Of course, the last point is, naturally, Europe is trying to do its best in view of its current political schemes, internal schemes and internal dynamics, is trying to do its best in order to extend all sorts of cooperation with the Arab countries, especially those that are in need of help. This is a good thing. It's not because of the Ukraine war, but it is something that is likely to increase because of this situation, which is something that we are happy to see. Cooperation with Europe is important, and I think it's important for both sides. And I hope that peace will be here soon. As I said, we're ready to participate in reaching this peace, but it's a very delicate process, and it has to do with the will of the protagonists at first. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thanks to all panelists, and thank you for your attention. We move on with the program, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, next session starts in 2 minutes. Thank you.